Senator Markey, how are you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm doing great. I hope you are as well.
Indeed.
Mr. Walk, as you know well, factory farms produce immense quantities of waste that fuel climate change and pollute the surrounding soil, air, and water. According to a study conducted in 2021, simply living in proximity to a factory farm can decrease life expectancy. Rural, low-income, agricultural dependent, and Black and brown communities are directly affected by these environmental hazards. Mr. Walk, do you believe that codifying this exemption for factory farm emissions, which is already regularly included in appropriations packages, would be beneficial to nearby communities?
No, Senator Markey, quite the opposite. I mean, one of the pollutants that the bill exempts is nitrogen oxide, which is a precursor to smog, and so that's a health hazard to communities surrounding these factory farms. This takes us backwards, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so it would not improve. In fact, it would harm those communities.
That is correct, yes.
Proximity. According to the EPA's latest greenhouse gas inventory, emissions from agriculture have continued to rise, while emissions from some other sectors have decreased, and these emissions are significant. For example, a recent report found that JBS, the world's largest livestock corporation with substantial U.S.-based operations, is responsible for more emissions than the whole country of Italy on a yearly basis. One company. So we just have to be realistic about it as we're waiting for Italy to come to Egypt in November. We should be inviting JBS as well in terms of what their plans are to reduce greenhouse gases. If corporate agriculture is given broad, permanent exemptions like those proposed in the Livestock Regulatory Protection Act, what prevents corporations like Exxon and Shell and BP from asking similarly large industry-wide exemptions? They'll say, well, you gave it to agriculture, why not give it to us as well? I mean, we only produce the same amount of emissions as JBS, so give us the exemption too. What would stop that from being the inevitable and exorable course that this whole discussion would take?
Nothing would stop that. I think it's just a matter of political muscle. We have 50 years of experience in this country to know that voluntary measures don't cut greenhouse gases enough to avoid a climate crisis, and we need to take that seriously with actual real measures.
Yeah, I think we should be heading, I agree with you, in the opposite direction in terms of what the requirements are going to be on companies that have been allowed to use the air as a large sewer to be sending up these very dangerous emissions. Robust air pollution standards are critical to protecting communities. The transportation sector is the largest contributor to climate pollution in the United States. Not a single year, over a single year in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic alone, more than 7,100 deaths were linked to pollution from vehicle emissions. Mr. Walk, in your testimony, you mentioned the extensive use of illegal defeat devices in diesel pickup trucks, which resulted in an additional 570,000 tons of nitrogen oxide and 5,000 tons of particulate matter. As you point out, this is quite alarming considering that all electric power plants in the United States released 780,000 tons of nitrogen oxide emissions last year. Those are crazy numbers. The use of illegal defeat devices is creating an easily avoidable threat to public health. Mr. Walk, does preventing the use of defeat devices and prohibiting tampering with emission controls protect environmental justice communities who historically bear the brunt from living in areas with dirty air?
Absolutely. We know they live closer to highways than a lot of the rest of us. And those figures you quoted were just from diesel pickup trucks, but there are a lot of other vehicles on the roads with defeat devices near where these low-income and Black and brown communities live.
Yeah, so these are crazy numbers. Again, all electric power plants in the United States released 780,000 tons of nitrogen oxide last year, and just the diesel pickup trucks is 570,000. So, you know, we've got to work harder and smarter here, and just look at JBS and look at what it does compared to, other industries. And the same thing is true here with the diesel pickup trucks and the other issues that we're trying to deal with. And we just have to get serious. And we can do it because we are a technological giant in the United States. That's our strength. That's who we are. And we only, we only lose our opportunities when we allow for our greatest strength to be offshored. We'll wait for some other country to start producing chips for us, or solar panels, or wind turbines, right? Rather than saying, no, we're going to do it here. And so that's where all of these technologies that will be the solutions, have to be developed, and we have to say, we'll go first, and then the rest of the world will follow. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your great leadership on all these issues. Thank you for this.
And thank you for being a great partner over all these years.